What's up, everybody? How are you? CP here. It is going to be an amazing session today. Going to give a few folks some time to get on. I know we had a couple of people that were actually waiting, so hopefully you will be able to get in. And just want to say hello to everybody. Happy Wednesday. Wednesday. It's hump day. I hope that you guys' hump day is feeling more like a hump day than it is for me. I feel like I'm still stuck at Monday. Don't know about you. But it has been one of those business weeks, I mean, I am booked absolutely solid. It's absolutely crazy for the rest of the week, and I'm feeling that overwhelmed feeling of, am I going to be able to get everything done? Am I going to be able to do everything? So hopefully you guys, this week is a lot more chill than mine actually is. I am just trying to make it to the weekend so that I can relax, release a little bit. So just want to give people the opportunity to log on here and say hi to everybody. If you are present, go ahead, say hi, type your name in, tell me where you're from. Tell me what you're looking forward to in today's session. If you want to talk about some money, go ahead and put money in the comments, but don't be afraid to put your questions in. If I don't get a chance to answer them, actually, since we are live right now, then I will for sure answer them for you at the end, and I'll try to go through all the comments and actually get them answered. And I had a couple of people that told me they would not be here, but they do want to be able to watch this replay, and so they did send me some questions in advance. I've got a couple of those as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 6:01. I see people still getting on. And welcome. I am CP, and welcome to CP TV. This is the place where if you are an aspiring entrepreneur or an entrepreneur in growth mode that really wants to get the tips and the tools, the systems and the processes from tried, true, and experienced business owner who has started, grown, and even sold some businesses, then this is the place that you are going to want to be. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I am dropping those tidbits of knowledge on you every Tuesday and usually every Friday, but I've been trying to do my lives a little bit different just because of my schedule. And who really wants to be in an evening live on a Friday? Y'all know how I roll. I mean, Facts Fridays is where we typically roll, and I'm already at happy hour even when we're talking. And so I know if you're like me, that happy hour is going to be in your future on a Friday, and I do not want to hold you up from that. So we kind of shifted with the schedule a little bit. Welcome to those of you guys who are viewing. Make sure you go ahead and say hi. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Don't forget to subscribe and like this. We're going to be diving in today to some really deep stuff, because one of the first things and the biggest things that I hear from people, especially those aspiring entrepreneurs, which has really been my focus in providing some information and tips and tools for those folks more recently, but especially aspiring entrepreneurs. Their frustrations include, I really want to start my business. I really want to get my business off the ground. I want to get it running. I see my future. I feel my future. I want to manifest that future. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to call my own shots. I want to call my own schedule. I want to make my own money and really truly provide that legacy for my grandchildren and my children, and to really have the opportunity to be rich and wealthy. But I can't seem to get past the idea that when I start my business, I won't have any money, or I don't have any money now to actually do my business. And so I want to address that and share with you guys my experience, what I did when I was starting my very first business, and then also share a little bit about my story with you, because this was a major concern for me. I already had huge responsibilities. When I started my first business, I didn't even realize that I was really starting a business. I was just more of an independent contractor or freelancer, and that may apply to some of you guys out there. But you got to really wrap your mind around the fact that even if you are just an independent contractor or a freelancer and it's just you are still an entrepreneur. And so it was difficult for me to wrap my arms around how I was going to truly start a business and still have money, because I had heard so many horror stories from people. Like, you're never going to have any money. You're going to be broke the whole time. It was just, you need a lot of money to start a business. You got to get yourself started so that you can go out and get a loan. And I am here to tell you that was not my experience. That is not what I did, but it does matter the type of business that you ultimately want to start. So I want to also make sure to remind everybody that's here, if you did not get a chance to go out and download your workbook, here is your workbook. It is going to be available for you. The link is actually, I think, already in the comments and already in the description down below. Please make sure that you grab it, because in these lives, which I will be doing, I think 1 or 2 more over the next couple of weeks, we are really working through a lot of the stuff in this workbook. And this workbook is called From Side Hustle to Entrepreneurial Freedom. It is a planning guide, and it is chock full of my golden nuggets. It is designed to walk you through from start to finish how to really plan out this business. I am a firm believer that entrepreneurship is going to be the fastest way for people to experience that freedom and that happiness that we all desire, to get out of feeling trapped, but also to create a legacy of wealth in our families. I know that's one of my goals for my children and my grandchildren. And I know that if I don't get started, if I didn't get started, I would not even be in a position that I am today. And I want to make sure that you guys have access to this. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's about 25 pages worth of goods. It's got all kinds of stuff, tips and tools. If you guys have seen my 6 steps to starting your business series, it's got stuff like that in there as well. But it really does walk you through from business, from from the idea phase all the way through to the launch. And it allows you to actually plan it out. And I'm going to be kind of addressing those things in our upcoming lives. So let's go ahead and get started and talking about how to start your business and have the money to do it. And I'm really going to drop on you a few of my tips for exactly how you're going to do that. And I want to start, first of all, with the mindset piece. You can't skip the mindset. And you might not necessarily believe or be a person that believes that how you think and what you project and the energy that you put out there actually impacts what you're going to experience. You may be that person, but I am here to tell you that it's not really about some woo-woo about whatever whatever I think about, I'm going to manifest. It's also about what you think and what you believe influences how you act and what you do. And those actions and that doing impacts your results. That's really what the mindset is all about. And I know it was huge for me to get over some of those mindset traps, those limiting beliefs that I had, not necessarily believing that I could be a good entrepreneur, or that my idea was viable, or that anybody would ever buy anything from me, or that I would ever be successful, or that I would ever be able to manage a business. And I wasn't giving myself enough credit. And so I kept myself in that trapped state, which was frustrating and really was my own fault. And so one of the biggest things around that, because I had so many responsibilities at the time when I started my first official business, I was a brand new mom. I mean, my son, who is now 21 years old, he'll be 22 in a few. Yeah, I got older kids too. But my son, he'll be 22 in a couple of months, was days old. And I knew that I wanted to stay home with him, but I also knew that I needed to make money. And so my first official business was kind of a continuation of my previous role, which I mentioned was a freelancer, or for a, hey, how are you? You can grab that, click that link. Hopefully you can see it. I just wanted to stop. Sorry, I got a question. Click the link. Hopefully you can see it, and then you can download that book. It's a good one. It's a good one. So hopefully you can see it. Let me know if you can't see it. It should be in the comments or in the description right below the video. Hey, Athena, how are you? So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that, because my first business as a freelancer, I didn't really consider it to be a business, remember? And then all of a sudden I said, well, if I was doing that and I was getting paid to do what I was doing, I can continue to do that. That was kind of my first business. And it didn't take a whole lot of money to start. It was pretty much an internet connection and a computer, but it was that fear of, if this doesn't work, how am I going to support my son? How am I going to support my family? And how am I going to make that money? And do I have enough money to even start this thing? And slowly but surely, I was able to kind of overcome that fear because I really didn't have a choice. Again, I wanted to stay at home with my son and be there with him and pray that he would cooperate. But I really wanted kind of a work from home gig. And it really did set me up. And then I realized, began doing all the research, the tried and true stuff to set up a business because I did not want to actually make a lot of money, which was a whole nother fear. I didn't want to make a lot of money and get clobbered with taxes because for the first time really in my life, I was going to be responsible for doing all that stuff myself. My previous freelancing gig that I had prior to was overseas. And so the tax situation wasn't really the same. And I was terrified of it. So you've got to make sure that you get your mind together is really the first step, and that you really work very hard at trying to overcome those fears. Think about it this way. You should be more afraid to work for somebody else. Why? Because how much money you make, when you make that money, if you make that money, is all dependent upon their decisions. And that person may not be, or probably 90% of the time, isn't going to be more committed to your growth and your financial stability as they will to themselves, which means if something goes down and they can't afford you anymore, they will let you go. So some people feel a false sense of security when they're working for other people because they're like, I need that steady paycheck. I need to make sure I'm bringing some money in. But there's no guarantees that that person who has hired you is going to keep you either. Right? So if you've convinced yourself that you're going to make money on somebody else's choices and somebody else's decisions, why wouldn't you believe that you can make money and have money based off of your own decisions and your own choices? You just have to know that you got to buckle down. You got to get that work done and you got to do it. Hey, Alexis. Hey, so yeah, you definitely want to get your mind right. And you might be thinking, how can I start this business without any money? I've heard that it takes thousands and thousands of dollars to start a business. It depends upon the business. And I would say if you don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to start it, don't pick that kind of business. How do I know how much it will really cost me to start my business was a question that I received. I live paycheck to paycheck. How do I set money aside for my business? And I've got a lot of responsibilities. And I'm going to address all of those things for you guys. So here are the 5 things that I did in order to master starting my business and still having the money to do it. And these are 5 things that I would definitely suggest that you document, you take notes of in your workbook because they were really critical. So when I was first starting out my business, one of the first things that I did was I had to make sure that I had enough money in order to cover what my startup costs were and to work on my idea. And so I thought to myself, okay, while you've got this money coming in from this, freelance type of opportunity, and you're wrapping that up, be very strategic and understand how much money you need to actually have and set aside in order to successfully be able to start up your business. And that required me to do the research. I had to work on my plan. So I knew that workbook. I had to figure out everything that it was going to take. And I actually had to do all of my research, figure out what my costs were going to be, multiply them out, add them up, multiply them out by 12 months and say, okay, I have calculated that my expenses to really kind of start this business and get it going, it's going to require a laptop. It's going to require an internet connection. It's going to require an email account. It's going to require maybe a phone system, communication system, a domain name. And I did all of my research and I just began documenting all of those costs and all of those expenses. And after I added them all up, I figured out which ones were monthly, which ones were one-time fees. And I said, okay, on a monthly basis, this is what my expenses are going to be. So let's just say that number rounded out to, I think at the very beginning, it might have been, well, this is a long time ago, so I ain't going, don't judge me. Okay. Don't say I'm old. Cause back when I started, gas, I think was 99 cents a gallon. So I just want to point that out. Okay. 99 cents. I don't think I've seen 99 cents since then either. So, but in any case, I think it rounded out to be, in order for me to maintain my internet connection, make sure that I had everything set up on a monthly basis, it was going to be around $350 to $400 because I didn't need an office space. I didn't need any kind of brick and mortar type of establishment. So I ultimately said, okay, how am I going to make sure that I've got $300 or $400 and allow myself the $400 a month and allow myself some time to actually get my first couple of customers in place. And I said, I'm going to give myself 3 to 4 months to really market the heck out of this thing, to make my cold calls, to knock on doors, to attend a bunch of events. And ideally, I'll be able to get my first client. And so I said, that means I'm going to need around $2,000, $1,600, $400 times 4 months, or $400 times 6 months, whatever that wiggle room is. And that meant I needed to save $2,400. And so at that point, I knew I was going to continue to be receiving from my previous gig money. And I knew that, I needed to save up a couple $1,000. That meant if I wanted to really be able to get started in the next couple of months and begin to build things up, I needed to make sure that I was taking money out of what I was receiving and setting it to the side. So if you already have a business account set up, you can actually automatically transfer into that business account. If you're like most of the folks that I work with who are starting their businesses, you don't have a business account set up yet. So put it in a savings account, put it somewhere that you can't touch it, that you have to physically go through a lot of effort to get access to it, like get up and go to the bank. Credit unions are great for that. I mean, not to downplay credit unions, but I think that they are annoying in the sense that a lot of them aren't online. You can't just go to any ATM. You got to like physically get up and go somewhere. And so open up a credit union or a savings account and make sure that you've got $500 per pay. You might have to sacrifice some entertainment, some happy hours, some nails, something, but you need to make sure that you are giving yourself strategically the opportunity to set that money aside. So that was one of the big things that I did. I began to strategically set money aside to know that I needed to be able to cover expenses and to be able to survive and take care of myself. And so I began to actually save that money up. And then also you might want to do things like, I remember my mom suggesting that I can come back and stay with her to eliminate some of my expenses. I wasn't doing that. So that wasn't an option for me. I hadn't been living at home for years, so I wasn't going back. But it's an opportunity and it's an option for you. So consider all of those things and begin to strategically make it happen, right? Make it happen. Also, another thing that I did was I really did begin to do that as I had my other job. And I think I did a whole nother video called, how to start your side hustle or why you want to start a side hustle. And it's a side hustle. I mean, I started the business as a side hustle, specifically because I needed the money to get started. I needed to have that window of opportunity. And when I had that job and was starting that side hustle, I knew that I only had 9 months left on my contract. And so I knew that I needed the 9 months in order to be able to get myself structured and to give myself a few months to get my first clients. And so I kept my job. I did everything I could to keep that job. Some people think that in order to really grow their businesses or start their businesses, that they have to stop what they're doing now. If you want money while you're starting your business, then you can't stop what you're doing now. Or stop what you're doing now and get a part-time job somewhere else. That is also an option. And I have a lot of coaches and clients that do that. I mean, they'll say, look, I cannot work in this job anymore because it's really, the hours are going to restrict me from being able to focus on my business. Cheryl, you've given me all these time management tips and techniques, and I just can't stick to it because this job is exhausting for me. I've got to let it go or I'll never pursue my dream. And in those instances, I'm like, all right, then why don't you call and get a part-time job somewhere so that you can control those hours, retail or McDonald's or Burger King, whatever it is. If you are serious about pursuing your dream, you're going to want to have some type of income coming in. If you don't have that savings or, somebody to loan you some money, you're going to want to have that income coming in. So get a part-time gig and make your business your full-time gig. That's really what I did. I had my full-time gig and I just worked my butt off. And it was almost like my business was a whole nother full-time gig for me. So I was working 40 hours a week there and I was working 40 hours a week minimum on my business every single time. And absolutely. I mean, it was intense. So that was one of the things that I did. And, also one of the third tip that I would give you guys is to set a date, set a date to launch your business so that you have a time frame in mind. If it is a never ending date, if it's just that thing on your list that continues to be there and you continue to allow other people and other things take priority for those particular things, then you're never going to move forward. It's just as important as a deadline. If you're anything like me, if I don't necessarily have a deadline for it, it's just something that kind of sits in the back of my mind or on my list. So many other priorities will take precedent over it. And I knew that my business was my future. I was becoming more and more frustrated. in my current role. And I said, all right, when this contract is up, I am not going to go out and look for another job. I am not going to go out and continue this cycle of working for other people. So I've got 9 months to do this. I would say make that time frame as long as you need it to be. Once you've calculated out those numbers and you have eliminated those mindset things, you can say 1 year from now, I'm going to be turning in my letter and I'm going to be working on my business the entire time, and make that commitment as well. I just get a question. I want to make sure I chime in for that. It's hard to make those sacrifices sometimes. How did you stay so disciplined? Oh, it was extremely hard to make those sacrifices. And I think I stayed disciplined because I set short-term goals for myself. And then I also allowed myself to have some rewards. So I actually used the things that I was sacrificing as rewards for myself. And once I would set a goal for my business in a certain week, and I would say, all right, Cheryl, you've got 2 weeks, you've got to get this marketing plan done. And if you accomplish it at the end of the week, then you can go out and have a happy hour with your girlfriends, and give yourself a budget of $50 for that. And that was kind of my reward. So I began to set up my own incentive type of programs for myself in order to accomplish my growing my business goals, and growing my money goals. And then I would allow myself to be rewarded once I hit that goal. And, but I do tend to be a very disciplined person when I set my mind to something. And that goes back to that mindset thing. I just kept focusing on where I envisioned my life to be eventually. And it did not involve working for somebody else. My motivating factor for starting my very first business was because I was in college. When I was in college, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. Hey to the yo, which is, the hood, it's the inner city. And I didn't really come from my mom didn't go to college. My grandmother, who was a huge influence in my life, didn't go to college. And I didn't have what a lot of my friends in college had. We would leave for breaks. We would go to summer break and they would come back and I'd be like, what are you going to do this summer? They'd be like, well, I'm going to go work for my dad, or I'm going to go work for my uncle. He's going to give me an opportunity to get some experience. And I used to envy that, and I used to say to myself, I wish I could say that. I wish that I could gain some experience, or I knew automatically that when I went home, I would be able to get this job or go work for somebody. And because I didn't have that same experience in my family, my dad worked at General Motors for 40 years and retired. My mom has been a nurse and was a nurse, retired once and just retired again. So they were workers, work for somebody else, get a pension. And so I didn't have that opportunity. And that made me sacrifice a lot, because the jobs that I had when I was away at college and that I had to stay there over break. Sometimes I couldn't leave because I wasn't able to get a job at home and I needed to make money. And I swore to myself, I am going to do something in my life that will allow my children, when they get to college and their friends ask them, what are they going to do over break? I want my kids to be able to say, I'm going to go work for my mom for the summer. I'm going to go travel Europe and backpack and experience international life for the summer. And I knew that all of those things were only going to be possible if I made them happen. And I think the fire for me at that point was that I already had a son. I already had a baby boy. And I knew that I only had a certain number of years to really get it done in order for him to be able to do those exact same things. So it was intense for me, but that was my why, that was my vision, and it kept me focused on that discipline. So you're welcome, Athena. That incentives idea, she said, thank you for that. She loved that incentive idea, and I've used it and I still use it today to give myself little incentives, whether I'm on a diet and I'm trying to stick to it or whatever. I give myself little treats and breaks. So that's one of the tips. And then I would also say that deadline, stick to it. Be realistic in it, but stick to that deadline. And there will always be things that you can tell yourself from a mindset perspective or from a limiting thought perspective that will push you to continue to put it off. But I can tell you from my own experience, I probably pushed off starting my business for a couple of years, at least. And if I hadn't done that, I would have sold, when I sold my first business, made that big chunk of money, I would have done that a couple years earlier. So everything that I've experienced would have happened earlier. And when I think about it happening earlier, those earlier times would have been the greatest times for them to happen for me. So all I did was push off the inevitable. And I had to stick to that deadline. And, I had a lot of motivation. My manager at the time, my boss, honestly, was more than an ocean. I mean, I was just like, I cannot work for this person one more day in my life. So I had a lot of motivation in that respect as well. Another tip that I would tell people, the five tips to do, is just to make sure that you are consciously keeping track of what's coming in and what's going out. So you've got to keep track of your finances, and you have to have a clear picture. So many people, when they want to start a business, have no idea how much money they're really spending personally. And so you've got to really have financial controls and begin to become completely transparent with yourself and understand how much you're actually spending, so that you can get a real picture of how much you can really save. A lot of people say, I live, or I function paycheck to paycheck. And I totally get that. But once I made the decision to be an entrepreneur, because I knew that I could gain wealth in that way like no other, I really did go through my bank statements for the previous 5 months, and I looked and pulled them all. And actually now I think you can actually export them in Excel and probably do it this way, but I pulled them all and physically typed in all the different categories and began to type in the amounts that I was spending. I think the physical act of actually typing them into an Excel document also made me sick to my stomach, because I was wasting so much money. And believe it or not, after I did that exercise, took those 5 months worth of what was coming out of my bank and actually mapped it out and saw what I was actually doing and spending, it was disgusting. Ugh. I found enough money to set aside in a savings to start my business in just eliminating ridiculous coffee, spending money on lunch every day. That was probably when I began the practice of doing meal prep and preparing my lunches in advance, because I was spending 10 to 12 bucks a day on just lunch. And then I go to the vending machine and get a couple of, some almonds or some snacks. And at the end of every day, I was probably putting out close to 20 bucks in just food and snacks. That's not including if I went out to dinner or if I grabbed some fast food or whatever, because I didn't feel like cooking dinner. So 20 bucks a day over the course of a week is 140 bucks a week. At the end of the month, I was close to, what is that, like 700 bucks worth of money that I was able to just find. And even giving myself 200 bucks towards that and taking that extra 500 was critical. But I had to get a clear picture of where I currently was in order to be able to set the money aside. It's a stressful idea. That's why I shook my head, because I think about it now when I'm working with my clients through it, and they are astounded at what's wasted. That's the first step. Really look at your personal budget and determine where you're wasting money and plug that hole. Plug that hole. Then, as you're still working, or you've got your side hustle, or you've got your part-time job, or you got your full-time job, and you're working towards that side hustle, make sure that you are tracking any business expenses that you have as well. Setting up your financials is critical for you to really get a clear picture. I see a lot of people whose businesses fail because they have no idea how much is coming in and how much is going out. It's like, I got some money, I got some revenue, great. I need to spend this money. You have to have an idea of what you can really pay yourself and what you really need to earn. Once I figured out those numbers, it was very clear to me. Until I get to the point where I'm generating, $4,000 a month in revenue on the side, that's when I know I can quit this job. And I've got to quit this job in a year. So I need to be doing this kind of money. And I was able to break that down. So hopefully that was a great tip for you guys. I want to check out some of the comments because I see them coming in. Yes, the focus is so important. Ask Another Natural. It is very, very difficult, but it is so important to really achieving that lifestyle. Being able to take off, and I'm in a position now where I really appreciate it because I'm sandwiched in between taking care of my parents and taking care of my children. And I've had a lot of health issues with my mom and my dad over the past few years. And I've been able to drop everything and go, and not have to check in, not have to ask anybody. And I can't tell you the impact that it would have on their health, my life, how I'm feeling, my levels of depression and anxiety, if I couldn't really be there to support them through aging, just aging. And so I'm so grateful that I did it when I did it, and that I was able to have that focus. Courtney, glad that you love the incentives idea. And yes, absolutely. Glam Check TV, try that yourself. Setting the short-term goals and setting those incentives up for yourself. And they were great treats. I think I used to, because, all of you guys, I love wine, right? If you love wine, put I love wine in the comments. I just want to know how many wine lovers are out there. But I love wine. And a lot of the time, my incentive was to go out and have some wine, because it's not just a bottle of wine at home that I love. I love going out and having wine and seeing people and all that kind of stuff. So I would give myself, once I hit that business goal. And I would say that same thing. Don't forget to get your workbook if you haven't gotten it, but go say to yourself, I'm going to complete 10 pages of this workbook, and then I'm going to give myself that treat. And those are some of the things that you can ultimately do in order to be able to get that done. Oh, hi. Had a visitor in the office. Oh, good. Courtney, I love wine, girl. Red or white? Which one is your favorite, red or white? Or do you love them both? I do not discriminate from a wine perspective. I like them both, but I tend to like drier wines as well. So my last tip for you guys about having money as you start your business is this: sell something. Yeah, sell something. You're not just starting your business to start the business. You're not just starting your business to have a piece of paper to say that you have a business, to whatever else it is. You are starting a business because you want to generate sales. And that means that you have to put yourself out there and go out and meet people and really do your due diligence in making that first sale. There is something very magical that happens when you make that first sale. It is the most intense, even if it's a sale for $1 or $5 or $10, your confidence levels will go through the roof. The validation of all of these ideas will finally come, and you will be in a position where you begin to believe that the decision that you have made to pursue this opportunity and to pursue your lifestyle and your dream is real. And that is critical. So to make money while you're starting your business means to sell something. So I don't know how many of you guys are out here have done this, but I know I do this. And every time I've started a new business or started a new program or started a new service, I am famous for selling it before I've actually ever done it before, or before I've actually even created it. Right? Sell it, because that revenue will begin to come in, and you'll begin to be able to bootstrap your business. Every single business that I've had, I have bootstrapped it. What that means is I've not had investors. I've not had borrowed money. I've not had loans. The business sales and revenue have literally supported the business. And that can be difficult sometimes if you have chosen a business idea that requires equipment, or requires brick and mortar, or requires manufacturing, or requires inventory, and you have to purchase things in advance. That might be difficult for you. But because I was always a consultant or a coach or in a service-based business, people were always the driving force behind my sales, and usually that person was me. So I was able to kind of start really small from an investment perspective, and I just continued to make sales. And I would make sales, and then implement something to grow, and make sales. And so the best way for you to have money while you're starting and starting your business business and doing that side hustle is to make sure that you set sales goals for yourself, that you get out there, that you're marketing your business, that you are screaming from the rooftops that you have a business, that everybody and their mom knows that you have a business. You have to get out of the mentality that you want to keep it secret and keep it to yourself until it's already successful, right? Because you're never going to get to that level of success unless you've already done that. So those are my tips, guys. Smash that like button if you like it. I'm going to check in. Oh, yes, I've got lots of wine lovers. Yes, the first check with your business name on it is so uplifting. Isn't it, girl? I think that I don't know where it is at this point, but I think that mine was cash because I didn't want no tracking. And like I said, it was way back in the day. But yes, that first check with your business name on it is the most rewarding thing. And if you still have yours, I would recommend you frame it, because thinking back, I wish that I would have framed mine, my very first, like client saying, hey, let's do this together. So I love going out and having wine. Wine at home is not the same. I agree. It's not the same. I mean, I still like it. I still do it, but it's totally different when somebody like walks up to you with that bottle and they're pouring it for you and just the whole experience. But I'm also a like to go out person. I'm a like to go out person, except for in the wintertime. I'm in Ohio. So right now I'm not a like to go out person. But yeah, so I want to also answer a couple of questions. How do you manage your responsibilities at what's making you money now while you're trying to grow what's going to make you money in the future? And that's a really good question. It's really about time management and the focus and the discipline that we've been really talking about. I mean, how I did that was I just don't even think that I told myself I had any other choice. I'm very bullheaded at times, and I was just convinced that I could do this. And I knew through my own experiences that, I had a gift that I needed to be able to share with people, and that there were certain things that I could do that I knew people would pay me for. And them paying me for that just validated those things. And so I made it a priority to take care of my responsibilities, but to also take care of myself. And it was just that focus and that determination. I think when I first started my business and I still had my other thing going, I was probably working at minimum 45 hours for my full-time gig, and probably another 40 hours on my own thing. But I had that shorter time frame. Remember, I said I had that 6 months. I mean, 9 months. And so I knew I had to kind of move faster. You might be able to get away with, 20 hours a week on your business, but you've got to make sure that you set aside that time. And I think I have a whole nother video somewhere on the channel that talks about managing your time and how to make sure that you've got the time. And actually, my live next week is going to be addressing specific time management tips and tools that I've used over the years and that I currently still use in order to manage all my stuff. So I'm going to share with you right now, because you asked that question, what all my stuff is. I've got 6 children. I've got 2 dogs. I've got 2 businesses. I've got 10 employees. I sit on 4 boards of directors. I also am involved in various activities with other organizations that I'm not actually on the board, but I might be on a committee. I am a dance mom, competitive dance. I am a cheer mom. I am a football mom. I am a basketball mom. And I like to have a girls' night out. I like to hang out with my family. I like to travel. So it's a lot, right? It is a lot. And next week on my live, I'm going to be sharing with you my top time management tips that I'm able to use in order to be able to balance and make it to make it all work. And it does include a lot of discipline that I have to instill. So hopefully that answered your question for you. Any other questions that we have that I can answer for anybody? Anything you can think of with regards to starting your business and having the money to do it? Or any questions at all, maybe about starting your business or your side hustle. I'll do a quick peek and see if I missed any. Oh, how do I get the booklet? There it is. There should be a link. If you haven't already seen the link in the comments, it's also in the description below. It is the Get Your Side Hustle to Freedom workbook. You can download it. You can use it. It is chock full of worksheets and step-by-step working through everything. And really, if you did take the time and set aside the time to do this, you could probably go through this entire thing and have your entire business mapped out and a true moving forward kind of growth plan in a weekend. But that would require you to seclude yourself, go away and do a little mini retreat, which I recommend. I have a whole nother video on the channel that talks about that, and Bill Gates does that, and so do I. And so when you look around, you'll see a thumbnail that has Bill Gates and me in it, and that's the one where I actually walk you through how to set aside time for a private retreat just to sit and work on your business. I am a huge fan of that process, because usually I can't work on things in pieces. I have to keep my focus, and so I just do things and stay on those things until I'm done with those things. So that's my recommendation. Any other questions that we got on here? It is hard to make those sacrifices sometimes. I agree. It's still hard to make those sacrifices. And you know, sometimes I just don't make the sacrifice. That's okay too, depending upon what time of year that it is. So awesome. I'm glad you're looking forward to the workbook. Make sure that you grab it. And remember, if you guys need anything at all, you can always reach me at info@ccpimpact.com. I don't think I've ever actually given out that email address. And if you are a CP Impactor already and you're a client, you know how you can reach me. Shoot me a text is the best way. You guys are very welcome. Make sure if you aren't already subscribed and you like this and you want to keep it coming, I am doing my best to bring you guys all the golden nuggets that I have learned in my career. And I've got folders and folders and folders of content that will be coming your way. I am so looking forward to the next 6 weeks, some of the stuff that we have in store for you. And again, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Yes, make yourself take a retreat. And that video, I tell you about self-care. When I'm on my retreats, I'm doing masks, I'm in bubble baths, I'm getting massages. It's not just work. So make sure that you actually check that video out. You're going to love it. And I give you the whole agenda of how to work it out. I started doing those retreats a long time ago. They used to be a weekend. Now they are a week. And I am really up to, hey, Kelly, how are you? Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I am really up to probably 2 weeks now. Not at one time. I think I'm going to take a week shortly here coming up, and then I'll take my regular time a week as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I love the feedback. Don't forget to subscribe, like this, share it with your friends. If you've got friends that you know would be really benefit a lot from CPTV, make sure you tell them to subscribe. I love you guys. And until next time, mwah, bye.